Good evening, friends. It's been a long time. We're meeting again. And the reason being very simple: not well, no lectures. So, still there are a lot of issues. Anyways, we got to move on. Today we are talking about the important concept in the subject money and banking. We have talked about supply of money. We have talked about value of money. We have talked about what is money and how it is created, generated, or pushed into the economy. What are the effects of changes in value of money? What is value of money? That is also we have studied. We have studied supply. Today we are talking about demand for money. Now, is it so simple that money is demanded because it is needed? Right? Is it so simple? Yes, it appears to be simple. That there is going to be demand for money because it falls in the category of need-based concept. Remember, needs, wants, and desires. Okay? In all the three categories, that is needs, wants, and desires, it definitely falls. Hence, there is always going to be a demand for money. But does it happen so? If you look around our lives, there may be times where we don't need money, where we don't want money, and where we don't desire for money. Of course, this again depends upon the state and phases of business cycles or the phases of the economy. For example, during the times of recession, the demand for money is almost doubled, right? There is ample demand for money. Or during the times of, if you say, the growth phase, it's not the demand for money that is there, it's the demand from some other variables of production. Then at that point of time, you don't need much money to push the product, right? So, though it appears to be very simple that there is going to be demand for money as always, but it is not so. So, first of all, like we have been trying to understand what is money, it's a most liquid asset which can be easily converted from one form to the another. It can change forms easily, hence it's the most liquid asset. You can go and buy anything you want with the money. It has stable value. Of course, certain currencies, they don't have absolutely no values. Like maybe some of the currencies of some countries, they have eroded their value, hence they don't have value in international markets. Indian currency to a larger extent, American currency, Euro for that matter, and Chinese renminbi, Japanese yen, these are considered as stable currencies, and hence because they have stable value, they can be easily exchanged for certain goods and services. And money also has value because people have the desirability to hold money. If you don't have the desirability to hold money, money will start to lose value. Right? Like people have a lot of desirability to hold dollars. So desirability also plays an important role. Like I told you, it's most liquid form of asset, is least risky. Holding money for that matter is very less risky. And it serves the value of store of value function. even if you keep the money, uh, of course, if the money is uninvested, then it starts to lose its value. But if you keep it invested in, or if you try to change the form of the money in some form or the other, then the value of the money remains almost same. Now there's very interesting twist to money. Money is not demanded for its own sake. It is having value. It performs the function of exchange, and then it is a measure of value used for transaction purpose. It's not demanded for its own sake, but for the service it renders to the user as well as the holder, right? To the owner as well as the user of that money. That means it's not demanded because it is having these characteristics. That is, it's most liquid assets, it has got stable value, desirability to hold. And these may be some of the aspects due to which people hold money. But more importantly, you try to hold money, or you try to have money, or you try to have demand for money, not for these purposes mostly, but for the service it renders. That means there's a saying that goes, money can buy anything, right? So the products and services that are on offer in the marketplace, they can be consumed with the help of money, and due to that simple reason, there's a lot of value attached to it, and hence there is value attached to it. There's definitely going to be demand for money. Like I told you, there's demand for money on the basis of its function. Why? If you see, money is a measure of value. If you want to measure the value of a certain product or service or an asset or commodity, you can measure it in terms of money. How much is it worth, right? Say I might have invested X amount of money. Now today, how much is it worth? If the only way that I can measure it is in terms of money value, right? So there is demand for money because it reflects the value of an asset, or the value of an asset can be easily measured in terms of money. Hence, because of its function of measure of value, there's always going to be demand for money. It's a medium of exchange, like I told you. Since a lot of goods and services, they can be exchanged, and the common mechanism through which you can exchange money is by it is used as a medium of exchange. So hence there is going to be demand for money. Store of value, like I told you, if you are holding an asset, say for example, if you are holding gold or precious metals, how much, the value that is inherently stored is not going to change, and hence there is always going to be demand for money. Predominantly, what I mean to say is, money is demanded because of its functions. Very simple. To make you understand this was the background that I created. Demand for money is going to be because of its functions. So unless the money does not function, there is going to be loss in the value of money. Supposing, like there was a time when government banned the earlier currency. That means the function of that particular money, the notes which were banned some few years back by the government of India, made what? Made the function of the money to be exchanged for the value it was stored within. It became redundant overnight. Overnight, people could not exchange money, exchange for goods and services, because the function of that money or that currency was made null and void. So, more importantly, if things are being bought and sold, that is exchange, using, and the medium of exchange, the common thread that is holding, that is having a sense of value to goods and services, is because of its functions. So functions play a major important role in determining the demand for money. If the asset that you have, it can be measured, its value can be measured in terms of money, then holding that asset becomes relevant. Like for example, holding gold. How much gold I am having? This much of gold I am having. Quantity becomes irrelevant. What becomes relevant is the value that you are holding. Now, how you measure that value? In terms of money. So hence, there is always going to be demand for money. Now, it is just an intermediary. Money, if you take it into consideration, it's just an intermediary having no independent role of its own. Right? We try to ascertain certain role to it. Otherwise, money on its own does not have an independent role of its own. For example, if there might be some people who don't need money, right? So if they don't need it, that means if they don't have any of the functions to be performed by using that money, don't need means they don't want money, they don't want any asset to be stored with themselves, they don't want to buy any goods or services, or maybe the money is not used as a medium of exchange. They don't want to use it, right? So what happens is that there will not be absolute demand for that from that particular person. It means for that person, money does not have any role to play in his life, because they are not demanding for money just for the sake of its functions. They don't want to do that. So there are a lot of people, a lot of classes of people that don't need money in that sense. Now, again, like I told you, demand for money depends upon its function, measure of value, medium of exchange, store of value. Now, demand for money, this is from the public side. Now, there is demand also of money apart from its functions. How much money should the government have stock as base money? Now, who's the authority to print money? Of course, the Central Bank of India, backed by the federal government of that present day, right? That prints and mints currency. So how much money should be there in the system? That tells us how much is going to be the demand for money, right? And of course, this demand for money, this demand for this base money, this much money should be there in the system, depends upon the phases of the economy or the stages of the economy. During recession, the level of base money, it goes up. During growth phase, the level of base money, it comes down. Of course, this is done by the mechanism of interest rates doing or taking the money out of the system or putting the money into the system because of interest rates. By the mechanism of interest rate is what we call it as monetary policy of the Central Bank of India, which we'll be studying later. So the stock of base money also determines the demand for money. Okay. Public's preference to hold money. Here the most important thing is, it its preference to hold money as an asset. A lot of people, what happens, this is what happens, the government has some rule that it is printing this much of currency, it is pushing this much of money into the system, which means the people are buying and selling the products. It has pushed the money into the system through spending, through consumption of goods and services. The money should come back again into the system. There's a very simple rule, simple mechanism to do this. That means you're pushing something, you're putting something into the hands of people, that is, you're putting money in the hands of people. People, are they holding it back? Or are they again spending it and the money is again coming back into the system, that is again over the government in the form of taxes and duties, whatever it is. Does it making the economy flow? If it gets stuck somewhere, it is only because it's people's preference to hold money. And of course, people just don't hold money for its own sake. Some people, they have some different ideas of holding money. That is, they try to block the circulation of money by, of course, who do it? People who don't have, or people who are not in a position to show their right sources of earnings. Okay, that is what we call it as, in financial terms, black money. So the quantum, if that quantum is large, that means people are holding money. People hold money for two reasons. One simple reason is because unless the money has value of its own, unless it does not reflect the value of the asset that it represents, people are not going to hold money. Okay, you might be having desire to hold money, say to the extent that if it satisfies you the three functions. Okay, beyond that, there might be people who might be holding money, that is ill-gotten wealth. They might be holding it, that's black money. That blocks the money, the flow of money, and government immediately knows it, and it starts coming out, say either with schemes that you can declare your black money and get away with it by paying certain amount of tax. Nobody will be asked how you got that money or something like that. Or it tries to penalize people who are holding money. It tries to see that who's holding money. Of course, that's a different story. So, public preference to hold money also helps in understanding the demand for money. And third, very valid reason, banks' preference to maintain ratio of D versus L, that is deposits versus loans. Say they need to balance. What do banks do? They try to balance the deposits with loans. So if deposits are more, they will try to push for loans. Or if the other way around, if there is demand for loans, they will try to increase the deposits. So there has to be certain ratio that needs to be maintained. Means if you're having more of deposits, means what? Interest outgo of the bank will be high. And banks, simply by paying interest, it cannot survive. So what it has supposed to do? It has to give loans, it has to extend loans. And of course, loans will be sought by the public if the economy is doing well. So everything revolves around the health of the economy. If the economy is doing well, people will have a desire to spend, to consume, right? So hence, nowadays, a lot of countries, they are promoting the theory of consumption. Whether you have the money or not at your disposal, go for it. Just go for the loans, go for different forms of credit, avail them, buy and consume. That is the theory of capitalist economy. That is how people are being made to consume. Now, apart from this, there are a lot of theories that are explaining the rationale for demand for money. Like I told you, people don't just demand because it satisfies their functions or it satisfies their desirability for holding money. So there are a lot of theories that are go into account that explain the demand for money. Number one is quantity theory of money as espoused by Irving Fisher. What does it say? He says that the frequency of money, that is, or the quantity of money that is demanded, depends upon price and volume of transactions. Now, where here in this equation, M stands for quantity of money, V stands for velocity of circulation, P stands for price, and T stands for volume of transactions. That means quantity of money at a certain velocity is equal to price and volume of transactions. Price of, say for example, of a commodity, you take certain prices of certain bouquet of goods and services. How many times that is demanded, how many times for demand for that particular product is demanded, plus the price of the bouquet of the goods, is the total quantity of money that is demanded by the public. To put it very simple, let us try to understand from the perspective of wholesale price index. Now, wholesale price index is an index which measures the wholesale prices of certain bouquet of goods. Bouquet of goods means it includes the essentials like your food items and certain services. They are measured. These are the things that are must for the survival of people in the economy. You take that into consideration. How many times this bouquet of goods is determined, is sought after, how many times, number of times the people buy, is the total quantity of money that is demanded by the public. So, how do you determine quantity of money according to Irving Fisher? He says that the quantity of money, say for example, let us assume 500 crores. How many times these 500 crores are demanded depends upon the prices of the commodities and the volume of transactions. How many times? Okay, that is very simple form of understanding Irving's theory or quantity theory of money. I mean, this theory of money depends upon the quantity that is demanded by the public. Now, how they determine the quantity of money? By the prices of certain commodities multiplied by the total volume of transactions. How many people are demanding, say for example, the goods, the basic goods, is the actual demand for money. Okay, that is what they say. Now, what is the other, and ultimately, this PT, if you say that, if you try to, even if you keep aside the velocity, number of times the money is being circulated, if we assume that V is to be constant in the short run we're talking about, which is true. I mean, the velocity of money in the short run is not measurable. So if we try to keep that constant, the quantity of money that is demanded depends upon uh, it's directly related with the price and the volume of transactions. P into T, price and price multiplied by total volume of transactions is equal to what? Value of transactions. Price multiplied by total transaction is value of that transactions. So quantity demanded is directly proportional to the value of transactions. Okay, I mean, in other words, I need money, I demand, say for example, 10,000 rupees, I demand for 10,000 rupees because the value of transaction that I am going to undertake is 10,000. Simply put, I might need money, 10,000 rupees, to buy a phone. Okay, so the price of that phone, since I am buying it for one time, is 10,000 multiplied by 1. So the money that is demanded by me is to the extent of 10,000 rupees. Now, of course, that 10,000 rupees quantum of money, similar other thousands of people, lakhs of people might be demanding it. So the 10,000 that I need is the value. So similarly, 10,000 might be needed by, say for example, a lot of people, n number of people. So 10,000 multiplied by 9 is the total quantity of money that is demanded by the system. So that is what this theory of money is all about. Now I might buy a 10,000, I might need 10,000 rupees because I have that much of income, national income or per capita income. So hence money is directly related with what? Demand for money is directly related with the incomes that are being generated by the public. So assuming that interest rates are not changed. So demand for money is directly dependent upon the income of the people. Hence M is equal to F of Y, function of Y being national income. It is measured by national income. National income is what? Total value of goods and services being manufactured in the country in a year. That's what we call it as national income. So demand for money will be equivalent to the total volume of goods and services that are being manufactured in a country in a year. So that much money is needed in the system. For what? To carry out the economic activities, production, distribution and consumption. Now coming back to Cambridge equation, Marshall and Pigou, what do they say? Now here they are talking about the desirability of the public to hold money. Earlier in the case, it was demanded for exchange of goods. Here they are talking about what demand for money is going to be there. It's due to desire to hold and behavior towards it. Some people, they have this strange kind of affinity towards money. They simply hold money because they are uncertain about their future. So what do they try to do? Of course, the form of holding money might be different. It might be in some form of the asset or the other. But here predominantly there is demand for money because we desire to hold it. Right? Why we are holding it? Because we want to have certain value attached to the assets which we are holding. That is the reason why we try to hold money. It says that MD is equal to K into P, where K is equal to national income, PT is equal to, that is price, and again the total number of transactions. In other words, the total output that is done, which is K is national income and the total output that is being done. In other words, purely saying that since the economy is doing well, it's K into PT is purely put it, it's the GDP that reflects, that's the value of GDP. K is national income, PT is output. When you multiply that, it reflects you, it gives you the value of goods and services being manufactured in a country in a year. Which means, since the economy is doing well, people desire to hold cash, desire to hold money. And that gives an idea how much money is going to be there, that is demanded. In other words, here people are holding because they want to use that money as a medium of exchange. Here the people are holding money because they have a desire to hold money since the economy is doing well. In both the cases, when are people holding money? When is there demand for money? Demand for money is only when the economy is doing well. Right? Third theory, Keynesian theory, it says that it depends upon motives and desire to hold cash. Now, motives are three: transaction motive, precautionary motive, and speculatory motive. Now, it means you are having demand for money to carry out the transactions. Now, carry out the transactions means what? If your incomes are doing better, if you are having good incomes, then you try to have a lot of transactions. That means you will go and buy, you go and sell, you try to have an asset, you try to hold an asset, you try to measure the asset that you are holding. In other words, if the economy is doing well, money demand is directly proportional to income or transactions. That is the reason why people hold money for transaction motive. Precautionary motive, again, it is also you're holding money because you want to take precaution that what if suddenly in case I may need money, that is store of value. You want to make sure that the uncertainty that is there in the future, its effects, they are minimized. To minimize, that is the reason why you're trying to hold money.